a monster of wind and water that tore through Bangladesh with 160-mile-an-hour fury. It struck land on November the 15th, leaving a train of devastation. Up to 15,000 lives lost, homes shattered, and damages soaring past 2 million. Welcome back to DocWales Diaries. We've travelled far together, across borders, through stories, but there's always more to share. Every journey reminds me of the extraordinary people I've met, the lives that have touched mine, and the quiet ways God's hand weaves through it all. As Ephesians 2 verse 10 says, we're God's workmanship, created in Christ Jesus for good works. And I've seen that truth come alive in the most unexpected places. Today, I want to take you to Dhaka, Bangladesh, a moment that still sits heavy in my heart. It's the story of a man named Paul Munshi, a fleeting encounter that changed me forever. Picture this, a hospital room in Dhaka, the air thick with weight of life slipping away. I've been called there by Paul's son, Mark, who reached out with a simple plea, "Come pray with my dad. He's dying." When I arrived, Paul was frail, his breath shallow, but his eyes, they held a spark. He gripped my hand, weak but firm, and in that brief moment we shared something sacred. Words of faith spilled between us. "I will never leave you nor forsake you," from Deuteronomy chapter 31 and verse 8. And Jesus' promise in John 14, "I will go and prepare a place for you." We spoke of Christ, of love, of a hope beyond the veil. The next day, Paul was gone. Who was this man? How did our paths cross? To answer that, we need to step back into a storm that shook a nation, and a mission that brought me to Bangladesh. November 2007, Cyclone Sidr roared out of the Bay of Fundy, a monster of wind and water that tore through Bangladesh with 160-mile-an-hour fury. It struck land on November the 15th, leaving a train of devastation. Up to 15,000 lives lost, homes shattered, and damages soaring past 2 million. Bangladesh, a vibrant nation of 160 million souls nestled between India and Myanmar, was no stranger to hardship. But this was a wound that cut deep. Our team from Medical Teams International MTI landed in Kulnar, a city perched on the edge of the Sundarbans, the wild mangrove, home of the Bengal tiger. Kulnar's rivers, the Rupshar and the Barab, pulse through its streets, and its port hums with life. But in the wake of Sidr, that life was fragile. We partnered with CSS, an organization founded in 1972 by none other than Paul Munshi. His son Mark became our guide. He steered us towards the hardest hit corners of the region. Alongside CSS staff like Milton Baraktar and Imtiaz, our fearless driver, we set out to serve. The roads were a mess, cratered, flooded, barely passable. We piled into a van with nurses Debbie Johnson, Sandy Stone, Don Scott and me, a physician with a stethoscope and a prayer. We carried antibiotics, bandages, anti-malarials, anything to combat the waterborne killers like cholera and typhoid lurking in the shelters. Families had lost everything, homes, livestock, loved ones, yet they were there, huddled in makeshift camps or clinging to the ruins of their villages. waiting for help. Imtiaz drove like a man possessed, weaving us through chaos. Sometimes we'd lighten the van, stepping out to cross a rickety bridge. We had to cross on foot, our hearts pounding as the boards creaked beneath us. When we arrived at the village, queues stretched outside our pop-up clinics. Often a local school turned into a triage centre. Kids with ear infections, a paraplegic man crawling in on tire-padded knees, a young man yellowed and huge abdomen with liver failure, another scarred from the tiger's claws. We all treated them. Hours burned into exhaustion, but the need kept us going. And then there were moments of grace, like the woman, an angel with a bucket, who appeared from nowhere. When one of our nurses fell in and vomited as we travelled along the road, this woman stepped in and cleaned up the mess, smiled at her, and then smiled, and all we could say was, "Don't have it, thank you." And then she vanished with a little handful of coins. Or the village kids who brought us a coat for a checkup, sparking laughter amid the weariness. These were the threads of humanity that held us together. Paul Munshi's legacy loomed large. His faith rooted in Christ's love drove CSS to stand with the poor, the helpless, the forgotten, no matter their creed. I saw it in the orphanages, where the girls who draped us in flowers sang with joy that pierced the gloom. I felt it in the Pentecostal pastor, sharp in his suit and tie, preach it under the watchful eye of armed guards after his church had been attacked and firebombed. I heard it in the nuns at the Catholic hospice, their quiet prayers, a lifeline in a fractured city. One day at the CSS hospital, I assisted Dr. Bongo Basu in surgery and appendectomy. Took me back to my houseman days. Then came Abdul Halim, the son of a Muslim mullah, his heart failing from a congenital defect. I stabilized him with digoxin and diuretics, but then arranged for him to go to Vellore Christian Hospital in India. Our month in Kulnar ended with a bittersweet Christmas supper. Our team and CSS volunteers gathered one last time. Dawn, my wonderful nurse, stayed on. Debbie, Sandy and I flew home on December the 26th. As I left, I thought of Matthew chapter 20, verse 28. The Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve. We'd come to minister, but we'd been ministered unto by Paul, by the villagers, by every soul that shared their strength with us. Next time, I'm going to take you back to Bangladesh again and show you how God's love in action transforms lives, even in the face of suffering. Until then, may you be blessed and filled with His peace. DocWales.